evening, ladies. Welcome to Growing Together in Grace. I'm Cathy.
I'm Ellen.
We're so glad you're here with us this evening. As we always do when we start our episodes, we talk about life. We have a real life conversation.
Yes.
So, Ellen.
Yes, ma'am.
In 5 minutes, why don't you let us know how your week has started off, maybe even how your weekend went.
So this weekend was really nice. So Friday night, we had a game night at our church, and I invited my daughter. Mm-hmm. And so my son-in-law is still working his second job, and he was working. And she said, okay, well, I'll see. So I was really praying that, maybe this would be a segue into, her wanting to go visit our church, get to know some of the people at my church. And so she texts me in the middle of the day at work, which is funny because we both work at the same campus. Like, hey, I'm coming with you and Dad on Friday. Okay. So she met us at church, and they were so loving to her. They just took her in.
That's awesome.
And my pastor's wife, she's one of our friends, and, we interviewed her, Amber, just took to her. She loved Amber's youngest daughter. She was just really, she just kept watching her going back and forth. And Ashlyn really enjoyed herself at game night. And,
good.
And I asked her, I said, so would you guys consider visiting our church? And she said, yeah, I think we would. I was kind of hesitant. Part of the reason why I was hesitant because I didn't know if you guys had a nursery or not. And, Amber showed her the nursery. One of the ladies that worked in the nursery was like, I can't wait to hold this baby in the nursery. And so she played a game. It was a big game that everybody was playing. And I didn't play because I was, holding the baby so she could enjoy herself. And it was a fun time. And Violet is teething. She has 4 teeth coming in. Like, she's drooling, she's fussy, and she's sucking on everybody's fingers. So, but she's just getting so big, and she's so cute. And, we got to spend a lot of time with her this weekend because Ashlyn was over. And so it was just a nice weekend. And today was your typical Monday at work, out of school. So you can imagine what that was like.
Yeah.
What about you, Cathy? How was your day, or how's it been starting off your weekend?
So I would definitely say that my weekend was a little bit of a surprise to me. It was a bit emotional. On Saturday, Jason and I had a really come to Jesus conversation. He and I are fine. It's just in the season that we're in of waiting on God's timing for the new home.
Yeah.
So that we can be close to our church family and be more connected and involved.
Yeah.
It is a season I've never been in.
Oh, yeah.
And you know me, I'm a people person. And I want to be like, there's a church event, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't go to all of them because of, time and distance. And I'm not really able to be a part of the fall women's Bible study just because the times and the distance.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work out. And so that aspect is so hard for me. And so I was just telling Jason, I need to figure out what community looks like for me right now in our new church home. Because we know this is where God has called us, and we love the church and love the people.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, He's not opening up the door yet for a home for us. Yeah. So I've got to figure out and get creative, which I talked a little bit about in last week. But Saturday, I think everything just kind of came to. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, we got to deal with these emotions because I need to process out. So he and I did a lot of processing and thinking about some things and praying. And the other aspect of that is, and I won't share this person's name, but a dear friend of mine who I've known for a very long time is going through something almost exactly what Jason and I went through from our old church.
Yeah. And I remember you sending that text and just saying, pray for this friend. And I was thinking, Cathy, this is your time to minister to this person.
Yes.
Isn't that funny how God brings us through those seasons and you're like, okay, Lord, I get it.
Yes.
You know, so I was thinking that when you sent that text and said, please pray for, you know, one of our really dear, sweet friends. And so I was like, I think God's putting that on
crazy.
you.
Like, as we've been messaging back and forth and I've been hearing a lot of everything, I'm just, what is happening? Like and so because of that, it's kind of brought back to my mind how things were handled at our old church and how ostracized we were and how just I felt like we were just completely abandoned. Now here's the thing. I told myself I wouldn't go into super details about these things, but like like the thing that frustrates me about how everything happened is we've known a lot of these people for so long. Yeah. And for us to come to a point where we couldn't agree or see eye to eye on something and like feeling like one party wasn't even willing to budge. Yeah. And then, you know, it recommended that we look for a new church home. Yeah. And that my husband stepped down from his staff position. Hey, obviously you can't do this and you should look. I'm just sitting here like, what in the world? These people we've known forever, you know? Yeah. And once that decision was made, Ellen, we never heard from anyone. Like, we were just completely... There's one family that will always be in our lives because we're kind of like family. Yeah. And then a couple of families that were the immediate aftershock was like, what's happening? So we got several texts from some families and phone calls. But it was just mind-blowing to me. And why did I go here with this? Oh, so all of that's coming back up again because I'm seeing the same thing happen to this person. Yeah. And so I grieved. I think I shared this on Facebook, and I had people who texted me. Yeah, like, are you okay? I was in my little prayer corner just crying and praying. Yeah. Lord, this world's broken. Yeah. And Lord, your people are hurting each other. I've seen it. I have friends who've seen it. I have friends who are now in the thick of it. And so, and I tend to carry other people's burdens. I want to fix other people's problems. So it all came to for me, and I just wept in my closet and cried. And as my Facebook showed, my 2-year-old doing her thing.
I saw that. I was like,
she did. She came in with her little note. Now her sister drew the hearts, and colored the hearts, but Dorothy did all the like squiggly lines and stuff, and then put a toy fry in there.
She loves this. When I walk through the door, she gives me like a plate of I never know what I'm going to get from Dorothy.
It's all random stuff. Hot dogs.
An egg. With a spoon. I'm like, okay, thank you, Dorothy. Anyways.
So anyway, you know, and she sees me crying in my little prayer corner, and she like leans over. This is the second time she's done this. She said, "You crying, Mama?" Yes. And then she leaned in and kissed me on my cheek. Sorry, Mama. I'm like, so, you know, I stopped crying and I just hugged her and I was like, thank you, Lord, for this precious gift, for this season that we're in.
Your reminder. That was the Lord saying,
yeah, I see you.
Here you go.
Yes.
Here's a hug and I hear you and see you.
Before you know, start talking about our episode today, I did want to say this. I told Ellen when she got here this evening, Dorothy and Evangeline were at the table.
Hilarious.
And it's so cute. They were eating dinner at the dinner table, and Dorothy saw Ellen walk in front of our front window, and she's like, "Oh, yay!" And she's clapping, y'all. And then she like does this with her hands, like, "Yay!" I'm like, "What's so exciting?" She goes, "My people are here. They're home." I was like, "Your people are here. They're home." And then Josh was like, "Miss Ellen's knocking at the door." So Dorothy is calling Ellen and chat.
I'm her people. We're her people.
My people are here. they're home.
Well, when we come over, she gets to watch
like Coco Melon.
Yes, Miss Rachel and
Miss Rachel.
Yeah.
Although lately we've been trying to like steer her away from those because I'm so
annoyed with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm all done. So I don't know what she's gonna do tonight, but last time it was Frozen, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
How funny.
I think it's adorable. My people.
I can't. I'll have to tell Chad when I get home. We're Dorothy's people now.
Yeah. And you were home.
I know.
You were home.
You're home. She's so cute. I love her. She's so adorable.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Anyway, so we've been doing some topical things that we wanted to talk about in our podcast. And today we're talking, this is a tough subject for me because I know that I struggle with this. And our episode today is going to be about anger.
Newsflash, I never get angry. Just kidding. In case you didn't know, I have red hair.
I've seen her get heated from the episode last week.
And I busted the microphone. Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. I am not going to touch the microphone because I don't want to break it because your husband is not here at the moment. So
yeah,
that would be really bad. But anyways, so we thought we would just share some thoughts about anger, what the Lord has taught us, what some of the things that we're struggling with. So, Cathy, what would you say? Our first question is, what would you say your definition of anger is?
That's a great question. From a human perspective, it's getting mad at injustice. I would tag in there that from a human's perspective, our anger is often selfish and self-motivated.
Yeah.
From a biblical perspective, I would definitely say that anger is being it's wanting justice towards the sin. It's being angry at sin, like in a righteous way. But as a believer, it is incredibly hard for us to have true righteous anger. Yeah. You can have righteous anger, because I think is it in Proverbs? Maybe it's in one of the Gospels because Jesus, mentions having righteous anger. Yeah, do you know what I'm talking about? I'm trying to. At least says, in your anger, do not sin.
Sin, yes.
So it seems to be implied, at least in some of the passages on anger, that you can be angry and not sin. Now, what that looks like,
I haven't
from a human perspective, it's very crazy. Because I have yet to see, that's not true. I've seen some anger done well. Like, of course, I'm going to be angry when thousands of babies are being murdered and killed. Yeah. That's righteous anger. Yes. That's good anger. Yes. Of course I'm going to be angry when people are mistreated and not treated in God's image. Yeah. Of course I'm going to be mad about that. Yeah. That's good anger. Yeah. But how you handle that anger is a different thing. So from a biblical perspective, I think anger is I would sum it up to say being mad at the things God is mad at, but coupling that anger with mercy and compassion as we see, him. If you think about Jesus on the cross, dying on the cross, of course he is angry that these people are killing, like he's being killed. Yeah. But like in his final breath, he says, Father, forgive them. Yeah. So there's a weird dichotomy of anger and justice and mercy along with it. Yeah. So when I put that question down, I was like, man, Ellen, you really have to think about that. Because like you were talking about, I feel like there's so many forms of anger. Like anger towards injustice, anger towards, the situation that you're in. I know that anger has all these emotions. It's emotional. Mm-hmm.
it can cause you to sin, definitely, if you're not careful. Anger is, to me, anger is showing a lot of emotion. It's a lot of feeling. And again, if you're not watching how you're controlling your emotions and your feelings, anger's going to definitely come out the wrong way. Like you said, there's, in one of the books that I'm reading, it's called Good and Angry, Redeeming Anger, Irritation, Complaining, and Bitterness by David Powelson. He talks about good and bad anger. So there's different forms of anger. And to me, that definition is so hard to say, what is anger? Because you can do one definition of it, but there's so many forms of it that you can't even describe it in some instances.
You brought this up, and so I wanted to share this real quick. And this I think is towards the end of your questionnaires. I shared this on our Instagram page.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I need to share this right now because it pops into my head, especially because she just, can I say this book?
Yeah. Which one?
Good and Angry. So this book by David Powelson, it's called Good and Angry, Redeeming Anger, Irritation, Complaining, and Bitterness. And I would say that this book is not a practical self-help book in the sense of how to help me not be angry. It's really more of a definition of what biblical anger looks like and how mercy can be coupled with that.
Yeah.
And how to work through your anger, but it's not like a self-help. I mean, there's some self-help, but I think his main point is getting us to think about what does anger look like from a biblical worldview perspective and how to work through it. So what I'm about to share with you it comes actually from this book. I'm glad you brought that. Mine's packed away in my boxes. So it's the title is 8 Questions Taking Your Anger Apart and Putting It Back Together. And the question 1 is and this is how you work through your anger. What is your situation?
Yeah.
Anger is provoked. Anger has an occasion. Anger is about something. Anger flares up for some reason in some specific time and place. So something has frustrated you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the situation. Question 2, how do you react? What happens in your thought life? Are your minds super busy when you are angry? Does cursing implode? Are you quick to judge? Is bitterness taking root? How about the physiological aspect? When are you angry? Are you dealing with anxiety attacks? Are your bodies racing into action? Are you having high blood pressure? Are you wanting to punch something? Are you sick to your stomach? Are your muscles tightening? What about your emotions? Have they become all-consuming?
Wow.
Anger says and does things. Like when you're angry, you groan, you moan, you complain.
Yeah.
So that's question. So question 1 is, what is the situation? Question 2 is, how are you reacting to it? And then 3 is, what are your motives? Why did you get angry? And depending on how you answer that, you'll either stay mad or you'll take yourself down into an artificial calm, or you'll learn to find God and respond constructively. So, there's more. Question 4, what are the consequences? Obviously, if your anger is handled from a world perspective and unbiblically, there's going to be consequences for that. Yeah. What is true? Okay? Yeah. So when you're angry, ask yourself, what's true about this situation? The next question, how do I turn to God for help? How could I respond constructively in this hard situation? Yeah. And what are the consequences of faith and obedience? So I loved that whole section. I think it's towards the back of this book where he gets us thinking about breaking down the situation. Let's break it down. Let's start with the situation. Yeah. And now let's talk about how you reacted, and let's talk about how the other person, and how it was so good for me to see, especially since I'm kind of in the middle of dealing with anger. Now, I would say my anger has mostly gone away, but every now and then it will creep.
It creeps up. It's the same way for me.
Anyway,
yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I like those points brought up, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because when I wrote that question down, I'm like, gosh, there's so many definitions of anger. We could talk about that for a while. At whom or what is your anger most directed at? I know it's a hard question. I wrote these out and I'm like, oh, Ellen, those are going to be hard.
Real talk. And I know this about myself, and I sought counseling for it. I am somebody who struggles with anger. I think that what happens is I get so mad at the injustices. I'm like, how could, especially if it's a believer.
Yeah.
I'm like, you are supposed to love God.
Yeah.
And like all these things are like, and so I get angry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, why am I getting angry?
Yeah.
Or so it's either that or I'm selfish and prideful, and I want, I'm thinking about my anger towards my kids. This is response to your question. When I get mad at my kids, why am I getting mad? Well, I'm getting mad because I want to sit down for 30 minutes and read a book, but my 2-year-old is making a big old mess, and so now I can't read, and I have to go help the mess situation.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's selfish, Cathy.
Yeah.
Or I'm mad because my husband did something. Well, that's not fair to him, Cathy. Does he even know you wanted to do, so a lot of my anger is directed towards people usually. And it's because I'm a selfish person, and I know this about myself, and I've sought counseling. There have been times in my life where I've been angry at God.
Yeah.
I won't say that's the case now, but before I was adopted, there was that period of time where I was crying out. Yeah. I was crying out that God, if you're real, would you just rescue me? And then he did rescue me. And then after I was rescued and adopted from age 13 to age 16, I was so mad. Yeah. I was like, God, if you're in control of all things, you could have removed me when I was a baby, and I would have avoided all of that. Yeah. But you didn't.
Yeah.
And so I got angry at that. And that's just because I didn't understand God's sovereignty. And I didn't understand, no one understands the mind of the Lord and what his plans and purposes are. There are times we can look back in our life and be like, oh, okay. Yeah. Of course that's what God was doing. And there are times we won't see this side of heaven. But at the end of the day, I cling to the word that tells me God is in control of all things. He is determined everything about my life. Yeah. And so I cling to those when I'm in seasons of what is happening. Yeah. Yeah. No, totally get it. But so for the most part, it's usually towards people, not so much towards God. Why don't you tell us, with you, who do you tend to direct your anger towards?
So, like you, I struggle with anger. I have all my life. And it is, a lot of it was learned anger from growing up. Because my dad has changed now, but when we were growing up, he got angry a lot. Our family, just some of our extended, there's some of us that got angry, and it was the joke around our family. Oh, that our last name Temper, it's coming out. It was a joke, but it was true. So when I first got married, it was wow, I didn't realize how bad my anger was. I mean, I'm just embarrassed to say this. It was just to the point sometimes where I would just get so angry, I would just take stuff and chunk it.
I'm only laughing because I've straight up chucked keys at Jason. Yeah. Car keys. I've walked it down the hallway, in this house. This was 10 years ago. Yeah. And I took keys. I was so mad at him about something. I threw it at him. Yeah. Said some words that I won't repeat here, and walked out, got in my car, and was like, I'm going somewhere. It's like, where you go? I'm like, I don't know. I'm mad, though.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. I mean, I threw a cookie sheet at Chad before because he made me so mad. Like, I just picked it up off the kitchen, and I chunked it. And then, like, my anger was always, you know, it was like you, towards people, you know, my poor husband, and then, like, my kids sometimes. You know, I would just get, and especially with my youngest, because my youngest really struggled with, you know, his emotions, his ADHD, you know, so we were just, you know, just trying to deal with those things. And I would just get so angry and like, what is the matter with you? Stop. You know, I mean, like, I've not been nice to my kids. I've said things to my kids, and I'll say it, and I'm like, oh my, the minute I say it, I'm like, why did I say that? That was horrible. I have said stuff to my husband that I know that I could never, ever take back. And sometimes if I think back to it and like the things that I've said and the hurt that I see on their face when I say it, I can never take those things back. You know, so a lot of times my anger was directed towards the people that were around me, especially the people that I loved. And they didn't deserve that. You know, sometimes my anger is directed towards the person that hurt me. Yeah. You know, there's in this book, Good and Angry, he talks about different types of anger. Like, are you this type of angry person? Yeah. And so I would just be one to hold a grudge for the longest time against somebody that hurt me. And that's a sin. And I'm like still struggling through that, you know, from this last season that we've just been going through. But a lot of times my anger is directed towards the people that are closest to me. And, you know, I'm ashamed to say that because that's what it was for a long time. Oh, my goodness. So during when you feel angry, how does your body react? Oh, well, no, not that question. Let's go back to the question because I skipped a question. Would you consider yourself a person that struggles with anger? Why or why not?
I would definitely say the beginning of my marriage and also at the beginning of my parenting journey, I struggled with anger. Not that this is an excuse for my sin, but the first 2 years that of our parenting, I'm pretty confident that I had postpartum depression.
With your first child, right?
Yes. Okay. And it was bad enough that everything was overwhelming to me. Yeah. And I respond when I'm completely overwhelmed and anxious 2 ways. Either yelling and throwing things, or I'd completely shut down and sleep for hours. Yeah. So, you're going to have to remind me what your question was again.
Would you consider yourself a person that struggles with anger? Why or why not?
So at the very beginning of our marriage, yes. And then we went through a season, ironically, where before our churches merged, we were in a season where I really felt like we need to leave the church home that we were a part of. And my husband did not think that. And I kept feeling like we need to leave. Yeah. We need to leave. Yeah. And so there was like tension in our marriage in that season. And because of that tension, I felt like it developed some bitterness in my life towards Jason. And then as a result of that bitterness, it kind of seeped into every other aspect of my life. And so there was a short period of window in that time frame there where I struggled with anger. And then right before COVID, I was like, I'm struggling with anger. And I don't like this about myself. Yeah. And so I reached out to a friend who is in biblical counseling. I said, look, I need to work through some things. I need to work through some of my past experiences. I need to learn some ways to like work through my anger, some tools to help me grow in my sanctification. So I sought some biblical counseling for a few months, and since then, I would definitely say that I see myself on a trajectory going this way towards my anger.
Yeah.
Like there are times like this weekend I was angry and frustrated.
Yeah.
And so I would say this week I struggled with anger. I really think anger is probably going to be something I struggle with my whole life and have to fight through and work through.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm seeing myself grow and change in that. And my kids have even said, like my oldest has said a few times in an encouraging, loving way, hey, I just wanted to say I noticed that you are better at not being so quick to judge something that I've done or something like that. I'm like, oh, really? I'm so glad you see that. You know? So
oh, that's cool.
Anyway, what about you?
Ooh, yes, I definitely struggle with anger. I've always struggled with anger. You know, just seeing it throughout my life, you know, was my mechanism for dealing with things. If things didn't go my way, I would throw a fit.
Yeah.
If things didn't go my way, I would get angry. I would throw stuff around. I would say not nice things. And it just really took... My husband is the most patient person ever. I mean, he's patient with me. He is patient with our 3 kids, especially with our youngest. When our youngest was going through all of his emotional breakdowns and, you know, trying to figure out and diagnose like what was going on with him, he was the most patient person. And through that, my whole marriage, my husband was the one that just, the scripture verse, you know, he had the gentle response to my anger. And a lot of times it was just like, I was so mad because I'm like, I can't be mad at you because you're so kind to me. I mean, he knows. All he has to say is, Ellen, okay, why are you mad at me? I mean, it's just the way that he answers me. But it's something that I struggle with. It's something that, you know, I have had biblical counseling in the last year and a half. And that's one of the things that I've been working on. But, you know, I have to say for myself, like this last year, because I was angry. I was angry at people at our previous church because I was hurt. So I was angry. I really clung to the word. I really clung to prayer. I really clung to just crying out to God a lot of times and just doing several devotionals, reading through some of the books that you've, you know, recommended to me. And I notice myself now when I'm getting angry or I'm getting like, you know, I just say, whoa, take a step back. Like this Sunday was a perfect example. I don't know what it is about Sundays, Cathy, but like Satan just really likes to tempt you to get irritated on Sundays. And I was irritated this Sunday. I was tired. I got up. I was cranky. Chad comes in while I'm exercising and goes, hey, you know where my laptop is? I'm like, what do you mean? Where's your laptop? He goes, well, I don't remember bringing it. He uses his laptop. He goes through a PowerPoint with scripture and stuff when he teaches Sunday school. I'm like, no, I haven't seen your laptop. So he's looking for it. And in my head, I'm like, if you would just keep up, you know, like all these things. And I was getting irritated. And then that was happening. And then there was something else that was irritating. And finally, I just told Chad, I said, can we just pray? And he just kind of looked at me. He goes, yeah, we can pray. And I said, I'm just having a tough morning. He goes, I know, I can kind of tell. He goes, it's okay. So he prayed with me, put me in a good mood. And then I had to go to praise team practice early. And the Lord just happened to play 2 songs, one that we sang 2 weeks ago and one that we were going to sing Sunday morning. I was like, okay, Lord, I'm sorry. I'm getting better at my anger. I'm getting better at my struggles. I notice myself more when I'm getting angry or irritated more. So I would say for me as well, it's a work in progress, as I say, because like you said, there's still times I get angry. Definitely. So with that, how does your body react when you're angry at a situation or someone? You kind of already said like you do one of two things.
I blow up or I shut down.
Yep.
I don't. Blowing up is rare nowadays, and even shutting down. And I think that's just a sign that God is really growing me in my sanctification.
Yeah.
But if I'm trying to think of things like within recent time frame, I would say I was so angry at the leaders from our old church.
Yeah.
And how everything happened, and just seeing how they treated Jason.
Yeah.
I cried a lot. And prayed to the Lord a lot, and also was doing some counseling.
Yeah.
And just like, God, what is going on? Like, here, I'm thinking about one particular week. A person called and just kind of shared all of this information they had heard through the grapevine at our old church. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Well, so I asked how it was presented to the church, and the information that they gave me was heartbreaking. Because it was like half the story, if for lack of a better word. Yeah. And so my anger was, okay, I want justice. Like, I want to go in storms ablazing and be like, look, there's two sides to this story. Yeah. Like, it's not what everyone thinks it is. But God had to remind me, no, this is... You and Jason met with some of the elders and their spouses and spoke to them directly and said, here's where we're at. You were crying. Your husband, like my husband, was like, here's where we're at. This is what we want to do. And so all of this to say, I wanted justice, but I'm now realizing the justice doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the Lord. Yes. And I might be surprised by what kind of justice it is, in the sense of, like, I would love, and you know this about me. Yeah. The way that everything happened, I would have loved. This is how I would have loved to see it go down, and
it just did.
It's not going to, and it may never go down. Is, hey, we. The sheep of your church are noticing these things, shepherds. We're seeing these things, and it's super concerning to us. We've heard it directly from people. We've been affected by it. And the most recent stuff, this is what all went down. Yeah. We would like to see you all acknowledge. Yeah. Well, that didn't even happen. So there was this why can't you see this? Like, come on. You know? Anyway, at the end of the day, it was just, we weren't going to see eye to eye. And so we had to part ways, but I wanted justice. Yeah. What was the question? I think I answered the question.
How does your body react when you're angry?
Oh, I was like, and that particular, the closest one to my life right now, I wanted to walk up to some of these brothers, because I've known some of them.
Take them and shake them. Like, physically shake them.
What are you doing? Yeah. But also, I'm also trying to be better now that I'm further on this side of everything. Yeah. I'm trying to be better about acknowledging, okay, Cathy, what's some areas that maybe you were wrong and sinful in this situation? I'm trying to self-reflect and self-assess and be humble. Yeah.
It's really hard to be humble when you've...
It is.
When somebody's hurt you. The way my body reacts, so I have high blood pressure. I mean, a lot of it had to do with my last pregnancy with my youngest child, but I know a lot of that has to do with my anxiety and my anger issues. You know, I know when I'm getting angry, when I'm balling my fists, when my body is tense, when my heart rate accelerates, you know, my body reacts in so many different ways. And, you know, I had a scare probably about 6 years ago where they thought I was having a heart attack. You know, I had to go to the hospital. You know, they did an EKG on me. My doctor said, I need you to go to the emergency room right now. My mother-in-law took me, Chad met us there. And the doctor told me, he said, well, according to your EKG, it looks like, you know, this part of your heart, you might have had a mini heart attack. You know, we're going to run some tests. That was scary. That was eye-opening to me. You know, and a lot of it had to do with some anxiety, but it also had to do with anger of the situation that I was in when I was at my last school district. You know, I'm stressed. I'm angry at the way things were being handled with certain things, and my body was not reacting to that very well. And so I've really had to learn, because of these health issues, that I really have to learn how to control my anger. Because, I mean, the reality is I don't want to die of a heart attack because I was angry or anxious about something, you know. And again, scripture calls for me not to be anxious, not to be angry, you know. Why am I being anxious? Because God takes care of everything. God's in control of everything, you know. And so those are the things that I've had to focus on when I notice that my body's getting stressed out. Yeah. But definitely. So this one's a toughie. Anger comes out in different ways. When you have been angry or frustrated, what are some ways that your anger has come out? Well, we've kind of already talked about. So we can move on to the next question. Anger can present itself sometimes in our desires. When we demand or need something, it can quickly turn into anger or frustration when we don't get it. So if you're comfortable sharing, what desire has become a selfish desire, need, or demand for you?
I would say that what I've talked about in the church, like my desire is that this never happened.
Yeah.
Like, I would have loved to have seen both parties. Hey, like my husband did. He admitted, he apologized and repented of the part of the story where he was being called in the wrong. And he went to the elders and apologized for it.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen the elders apologize for where they were wrong.
Yeah.
Now they didn't see where they were wrong.
Yeah.
Which that's so hard for me, because there were so many there have been so many families that have left our old church for years for the same exact reasons.
Yeah.
And, you know, we stay to hopefully encourage change and push change and fight for that. And it just got to the point where we realized that we see differently. Yeah. So we had to part ways. And that's the thing that they communicated to our old church is it's like a John, Mark, and Paul situation. We have differing views and philosophies on things. And so we're going to part ways. And I'm like, it's a little bit more than that. Yeah, but I understand why they said there's what more. They said.
Yeah.
But my desire was my poor husband, I'm getting.
Yeah.
I'm calling.
Don't pull on that mic now.
I am calling our friends.
Yeah.
As hard as it's going to be, I'm going to have this conversation. Yeah. Hey, we love you guys. What's happening? Yeah. Why are we doing this? Why are we going through this?
Yeah.
Why can't we fix this? This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he was like, I know that's what you want to do. You need to just... I'm like, I can't just sit here and be like, okay. You know, it's not okay.
Yeah.
As a result, it's proven to still not be okay because we haven't spoken to any of the elders and their families since we've left our old church.
Yeah.
And I would have thought that 2 of the families we were good friends with.
Yeah.
I'm like very surprised. Now, that's not to say, have I reached out to them? I haven't. Because we're in a weird, awkward place.
Yes.
And I want to deal with it.
I feel like that too.
I want to pop it and be like, let's just deal with it. Let's get it all in the open.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of hurt on both sides. I know they feel hurt. We're hurt. And I just think that probably the best thing right now is the space and time to heal.
Yeah.
And that maybe somewhere down the future that will happen.
Yeah.
So my desire is usually fix it immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, when I, was thinking about this question, I read that book on contentment that you had suggested to me, and there was a lot of eye-opening things for me. Mm-hmm. I would get so irritated and angry when something that I wanted to do, we couldn't do. Yeah. Whether it be go on a nice vacation or like, hey, can we go shopping, or can we get this? Yeah. Can we buy that? It was my selfish desires of what I wanted, materialistic. And if I didn't get those, I would be angry at my husband, Mm-hmm. And I've really had to work at that, because that's a triggering point for me. It's always, if I don't get what I want, I get angry. Mm-hmm. And I take it out on him. Yeah. And so this has been really difficult for me, because I've wanted to get different things like, hey, I want to go buy this toy for the baby. And Chad's like, we're a little bit tight right now because we had to pay, our electric bill this last month was ridiculous. Because
we live in Southeast Texas. Yeah. It's been 100 plus temps forever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been the highest in a couple of years. Let's just say that. And he's like, we're a little bit tight because our electric bill is high, so we got to cut back on some things. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I guess I can't get anything. I can't buy any books for the baby at the book fair that we have at school. All right, fine. I guess we can't go out and eat those things. And I catch myself doing it. I've been catching myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, Ellen. So it's a lot of my selfish desires is where I get angry. When things don't go my way, I get angry. And the same thing with you. I am so angry. I'm still dealing with this anger. And look at me. I am I'm punching my hand. I'm not punching the mic, but I'm punching my hand. I'm like,
you're breaking my
I am just so hurt and somewhat angry still at people's perception of my husband. That makes me what makes me angry as well as when people say hurtful things about my husband or do something to my children. It's like a mama bear moment. Do not mess with my family.
Well, you remember, I think it was one of our last services at our old church. Mm-hmm. And a church member came up and starts going at it about my husband and some things that he enjoys. Yeah. And kind of, you know what I'm talking about? He was
being judgmental.
Yeah, he was super judgmental towards my husband. And this person was supposed to be a friend, a good friend. Yeah, yeah. And I left that evening, and I think I texted you.
You called me. You were crying.
I was crying.
You were crying.
Because I literally was in the middle of a conversation with a brother in Christ. Yeah. Who was supposed to be a good friend, who was incredibly judgmental towards my husband, and then just said, well, if this, and this, then that means he can't be a good father and a husband, and just all of these horrible things. And
let's just say I'm glad I wasn't there. I don't think I would have been very Christian if I was there.
I cried like you wouldn't believe. That's why I called you.
I know. You called me crying. I remember that.
I think I texted Jill, came home. Jason's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I cannot believe this happened. And I kept trying to make it so clear. Stop. I'm not having this conversation. Yeah. And it was at church.
Yeah.
Around other believers. And I'm like, why are we having this conversation?
Yeah.
So I got so mad and hurt.
Yeah.
And cried.
Yeah. Or just like...
But perception, you went.
Yes.
That's why I thought that you were saying about perception.
Perceptions. Yeah. That makes, those are the things that trigger me. Like, don't go to my husband. Don't you say anything about my husband, and don't you do anything to my children.
Yeah.
Because the mama bear is going to come out with me.
Yeah.
And I know that's wrong. And like you said earlier.
Well, let me jump in real
injustice.
quick.
Yeah.
Like, there's good anger. Like, if your child, it's just how you
how you deal with it. And honestly, I don't deal well with it. I mean, I'm putting myself out here. Okay.
I'm the same.
When Andrew, when he played soccer, one of us would just stand up from their chair and go, "Are you kidding me? That wasn't what?" And the other parent would be like, "Hey, sit down."
Were you the parent? Are you kidding? Okay, that's
I would shoot out of my chair, and child would be like, "Elle, sit down."
That's me.
And I'm like,
that's funny.
I'm so embarrassed.
That's so me.
Just get angry.
That's me. That's actually how I am at baseball with Joshua.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know this, that there was 1 year, actually maybe 2 years, Joe Rowan was his coach.
Yeah.
And Joe's like, "Hey, Mom, come here for a second." I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "You see this line right here?" It's like, "Yes." Don't cross it. Don't cross this line. I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Don't cross this line. Stay back here, but don't cross this line." I'm like, "What?" I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
But the first year of baseball was so bad. Jason actually told me at the end of the season, if you can't control your emotions and your anger, I'm not sure we're going to continue doing baseball anymore for our kid. I can't handle it. It stresses me out. Am I that bad? Yes.
Yeah, no. Anyways, I was just like, okay, that was one of those moments where I was like, okay,
I wish I could have seen you in action.
I need to get, yeah. It comes out occasionally, believe it or not.
Little 4 foot 10
I know.
Ellen.
Anyway.
What? Are you kidding me?
I mean, there was one time where, I'm not kidding you, Andrew, it was a bad foul. Like, the kid literally, like, elbowed him, and he got knocked down, and the ref didn't call it, and I shot out of the eye. I was like, "Hey, foul." I yelled. A lot of the parents just looked at me, and I was like, I need to walk away. And I did, and I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed.
That's funny.
Anyways, let's see. If you have become aware of your anger and are beginning to see it, what are some of the things that God has been showing you that you need to work on in regards to your anger and frustrations?
It's a really good question. So I've actually been doing this whole thing since we left our church home last October. I started off reading, I read this book on anger. And then I started reading books on forgiveness.
Yeah.
I read Wendy Alsop's book on forgiveness.
I am in the middle of reading that. It is very good.
I feel like there's a lot of similarities in her story and my story.
Yeah.
And my husband's story. I mean, I shouldn't say a lot. There's some similarities. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
I started reading that, and then I read the Book of Forgiveness by Desmond Tutu, I think is how you say his name, which really rocked me. And I'm reading Tim Keller's book Unforgive, and I'm doing a devotional on forgiveness. So what I found that I've done is I went through a series on anger.
Yeah.
And a devotion on anger.
Yeah.
And then I went through a series on content and peace.
Yeah.
Anxiety, and grief. So back up. I started doing anger and working through my anger, and then I started doing grief. Like, I need to feel the grief and the pain of things not being the way that I had hoped for them to be.
Yeah.
And now I'm on to the part of forgiveness. So it's a step process for me. Now I'm working through, because if I'm honest, like I was even telling Jason this weekend, I forgave the brothers that hurt us. I forgave the leadership at our old church. I forgave some of the men who were on leadership at our old church who really hurt me and my husband. I forgave them. I thought I forgave them, but why am I still getting frustrated and angry? Why is it still coming up?
Yeah.
And so this weekend I was so mad about that, because I don't want to be there. Like I don't want that bitterness and that anger and frustration. And so I'm like, did I forgive them? And so I'm working through a series on forgiveness now. What does that look like?
Yeah.
What does it look like to forgive? Especially in a situation where true reconciliation didn't happen.
Yeah.
I would say reconciliation didn't happen. I don't know if if the leadership at our old church would say that, but no true reconciliation happened.
No, there was none for us either.
And so how do you, like, what do you do with that? How do you forgive, and how do you walk forward in that? That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Can you repeat your question? Because I want to make sure I answered it entirely.
If you are aware of your anger and are beginning to see it, what are some of the things that God has been showing you that you need to work on in regards to your anger and frustrations?
I would definitely say that for me, I'm right now in the spot of forgiveness, what that looks like.
Yeah.
And then I would also say that I've been speaking to the person who's been counseling me the most throughout this whole process of, do I need to write them a letter and confess the sin on my part? If they're like self-evaluate, okay, where was I sinful? Where was I unloving? And if I may not have been. I don't think I was, but maybe I was. Maybe in their eyesight, But also, do I write a letter saying, I forgive you? Will that release it? I don't know. So I'm in the process of...
So I know for us that we did write a letter.
Oh, okay.
I think Chad let Jason read it. It was the one that we sent. And it was kind of along the same ways. And, we didn't get a response from it. So, that was hurtful. But in the same context, I love that you brought up bitterness. And I think one of the things that I notice about myself, and that maybe sometimes you may not notice, is that bitterness comes from anger. And if you don't take care of the anger, the bitterness is going to settle in. And so I think I'm with you on that same point, is that I am struggling with how angry I feel and like not wanting to be at bitterness. And I'm like you, like I'm in the middle of reading Wendy Alsop's book, I Forgive You. And it's really, really good. And, and I am also in I'm doing Lisa Turkhurst, Sing Beautiful Again. Amazing devotional. I've already been blessed, and just God is teaching me things doing this devotional and teaching me things reading I Forgive You by Wendy Alsop. It's a hard thing. Anger is a hard thing. There's so many things that if you don't control it, it seeps into so many different things, and you don't realize the different things that it seeps into, like complaining and grumbling, a negative attitude, all of those things. That's anger, and it comes out in different forms. Like I said earlier. How are we doing on time?
We're right at 59 minutes.
Okay.
We're was it 2 weeks ago? We were at 1 hour and 20 minutes.
I know. I was like, ooh.
And ironically, it's the episode that a lot of people have listened to and texted, hey, I'm really thankful you did this episode.
Yeah.
I think it was the one on anxiety.
On anxiety. Yeah. I mean, so I might skip some of these questions and then maybe go to the last two. What scripture verses do you know of that give us wise instruction about how to handle our anger?
I would definitely say that I
put some down in my phone.
Yeah. I'm going to get my phone up too. In fact, this was these were verses that we memorized, that some of the ladies memorized in our Facebook group at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I memorized and I still think through and think about. It's Colossians 3:12 through 14. It says, "Put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another. And if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony." So for me, the way that I work through my anger and frustration is I first remind myself, okay, I'm the chief of sinners. Christ saved me. He had every right to be angry with me and send me straight to hell.
Yeah.
But he chose to come and live a perfect life, die on the cross, die 3 days later, rise again, and save me.
Yeah.
So he forgave me and was compassionate towards me. So the person that has made me angry, okay, how can I be compassionate to this person right now? How can I show kindness to them? How can I be humble? Be willing to, okay, I'm angry right now, but is this righteous anger? Is it good anger? Mm-hmm. Or is this me being selfish?
Yeah.
Being patient and bearing with the person.
Being patient is so hard. So hard.
I won't go through the entire rest of the verses, but the very last part is put on love, which binds everything together. Yeah. And so one of the phrases that we say in our home a lot is, if what you're about to say or what you're about to do does not love God and love people, I don't want any part of it. Yeah. Love God and love people, and it will go well with you. Yeah. So that's what I try to do. And when I get angry, I keep going back to the passages of, okay, what are we called to put on? Like I think about verses in Ephesians. We're called to put on these things. And how do I put this on? Not to say that there's nothing wrong with wanting justice. Yeah. Because there are definitely times where
you want justice.
A believer should fight for the justice of people.
Yeah, I agree.
Be compassionate and show mercy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's one big verse for me. What about you?
So I love how Proverbs.
Since we're going to go back and forth. I'm going to leave it on
that's fine. I love Proverbs. It has those many verses in there that are just so simple. You're like, okay, yes, that's common sense. A hot-tempered person stirs up conflict, but the one who is patient calms a quarrel. Better a patient person than a warrior, one with self-control than one who takes a city. The words here is one that I'm like, oh, okay. The words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Proverbs 12:18. Just so many different verses. Yeah. And the one that I always fall back on when I think about the opposite of being angry and frustrated is Galatians 5:22 through 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. If you focus on those things, you're not going to be angry. You're not going to be frustrated. You're not going to be bitter. So I fall back on Galatians 5:22, 23. Anger is not love. It's not joy. It's not peace. All those things, I have to strive to be all of the fruit of the Spirit, because that's what God is calling me to do. But, those verses in Galatians and also just Proverbs, just so many things. One of my favorite ones in Proverbs is, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Proverbs 15:1. I mean, so many good things.
It's funny that a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh one stirs up anger.
Yeah.
I've even seen that in my own parenting.
Yeah.
When I
Yes.
am in the middle of a conflict with one of my older kids, or even my toddler,
yeah,
if I'm harsh right off the bat, I've lost them.
Yes.
They're mad, they're angry, they're upset. But if I'm gentle in my approach, I'm like, I can understand why this frustrates you.
Yeah.
But your mom and dad have made this so if I'm gentle in my approach, I've won them over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's another one. And then the one that you talked about, an impatient man, I'm going to paraphrase it, ruins a city or tears down the walls. What was that?
Oh, let me find it. Better a patient person than a warrior, one with self-control than one who takes a city.
It is something, so my oldest and I are very similar in regards of personality. We're both quick to anger.
Yeah.
And there have been times where, like, he got angry one time. He ended up, this was his first year of baseball, I think. I think he broke something. I don't think it was his bat, but something of his broke because he was so angry. And he just, maybe it was his baseball glove. I don't remember. Something broke because it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he didn't have that for the rest of the season because he was so angry and he didn't have the money to replace it, and we weren't going to replace it.
Yeah.
So it was a learning tool for him. And the same has happened to me before where I've broken. This has been years ago, but I've broken something because I've been so angry.
Yeah.
And I, broke a chair or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It is definitely, anger can really seep into every aspect of your life.
Definitely. So here's the last question. What are some things the Lord has shown you as you work through your, as you work through your anger? Are you still a work in progress, or do you think you have been able to control your anger better?
I definitely think that I can control my anger better.
Okay.
I'm still a work in progress, though.
Yeah.
I tell this to my daughter. I tend to be more angry around that time of the month, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But one of the things I tell her as she's growing up, like, this can't be an excuse. I can't let my period be an excuse for why I'm so hormonal and emotional and angry.
Yeah.
Like, sure, my hormones are, but I still am called to be self-controlled.
Yeah.
I'm still called to be loving and kind and patient. And so I think it was, I'm going to see if I can find it. So as I'm finding it, you can talk with us a little bit. But Rachel Yankovic, I think is how you say her name. And y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. I said Jankovic one time and someone laughed at me. I'm like, I think that might not be how I say her name. She has this spiel in her book, Loving the Little Years, on how we teach our girls to rein in their emotions. Yeah. And it's something I teach my kids about about my anger and emotions. So why I'm looking for that. You share.
So some of the things the Lord has shown me, that I'm working on, is my anger. Just learning just through the last several years about how to deal with my anger. It's hurt me physically with my health, but it not only hurts me physically, it's hurt the people that I love the most that are around me. I mean, I know there's words that I have said to my husband and my children that I could never take back. And probably some of the words that I've said to my children, they still have on their mind. Right. And it's something that I can't take back. Anger it wrecks relationships. It really does. And not only does it wreck relationships, it wrecks you as a person. Anger is just one of those sinful natures that you just really need to work through. And so, the Lord has shown me through my anger that I need to control it. I need to rely on him. I need to, I actually take physical steps when I feel like I'm getting angry. I physically have to walk away from the situation sometimes, take deep breaths, pray, or just actually tell my husband, okay, I'm a little bit irritated right now. So if I snap at you, I'm sorry. Yeah. Just giving those cues like, hey, I know that I'm not in the right place. I need to help myself regulate. But it's through my prayer time, and I have really tried to cultivate within this last year of just trying to be around people, for me, joyful people who are positive, people who love God, people who have the same mindset as I do, that are uplifting. So, because that has really helped me. I'm definitely still a work in progress. I'm getting better. But I'm still a work in progress. I'm going to be a work in progress for the rest of my life, probably.
I think we all will be.
Yeah, definitely.
Until we get there.
Yeah. So you found it.
I found the thing that I was saying. So for me, what I notice is I struggle with self-control. And because I struggle with self-control, my anger gets the best of me.
Yeah.
It's the same for my oldest.
Yeah.
And so one of the things, but I'm also trying to tell both girls, I've done this with Dorothy, and I'll share a little cute story about Dorothy in regards to this. So I tell Evangeline and myself, and my son, our feelings are like horses. They're beautiful and spirited horses and wild. Okay. But we're the riders. These are her words, by the way. A good rider knows how to rein it in. A good rider knows how to control their horse, and especially when the horse tries to bolt, they know how to rein it in. They know how to okay, whoop, back it up.
Yeah.
And pull on the reins. And that whole chapter in Loving the Little Years is all about teaching your children self-control. Yeah. Teaching yourself self-control. And so one of the things that I know I have to grow in is being self-controlled in my emotions. Yeah. And so when I feel like we've talked about this some already in the podcast, but oftentimes when I get angry, I can feel like I'm feeling angry.
Yeah. Your body physically. Yeah.
There are times where it's either because I'm overstimulated, and so whatever the surrounding noise is, it's going to shut down. Like if it's loud music, we turn off the loud music, right? Yeah. Or if it's the kids all yelling and having fun, they got to go outside and yell and have fun. Yeah. Or if I'm just having a really tough day, I will say to Jason, he'll come home, and I'll say, hey, I'm at a 10. I'm really functioning at a 10. It's on a 100 scale, right? Where are you? And he'll be like, I'm like a 90 or whatever. And so we're figuring out where we're at, and we're lifting each other up. Yeah. Or it's like, hey, why don't you go to the room for a little bit and have some, excuse me. And so I've gotten to the point now where I call it my 5 minutes. Mommy needs 5 minutes to just go pray. Yeah. Yeah. And be quiet.
Yeah. Yes. So. I was going to share. So I'm doing the seeing beautiful again. I don't find this a coincidence that today my devotional was 3 questions to ask before giving a response you can't take back. And the verse she put on here was, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And I was like, okay, this is about anger. And so she gives you 3 questions to ask yourself when you're getting angry in a situation or somebody's making you angry. The first one is, what part of this issue can I own and apologize for? Kind of what you were talking about earlier. Like, am I a part of this? What do I need to apologize for in this situation? And then the second question is, how can I soften my heart towards this person so I honor them despite how they react? Ooh, that one was hard. How can my heart be towards this person when I react? Because when you're angry, your first reaction is to get angry back at the person that hurt you. And the third thing she says to ask yourself is, this one was tough. If I knew this conversation was being recorded and then shared with people I greatly respect, how would this change my reaction? So some things to think about when you're in the heat of the moment. That just, she put that in the devotional for today, and I was like, ooh, okay. So some more tips on what to do when you feel angry, or, think about as you're processing why you're angry.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But anyways,
thanks for sharing that.
Yes, I love this book, y'all. Get it.
It's really a great
book. I love it.
I want to do her second one, which is what she just released in March.
Ooh.
But I'm working my way through the 31 Days of Life series right now. I may pause.
I have 5 books I'm trying to read because Cathy keeps giving me all these great recommendations.
I just had a friend earlier text, hey, do you guys have a book recommendation for me? Because I have a few Kindle credits. I was like,
okay, here you go. Cathy gave her probably 10 books.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I was like, my top, this year at least, here are my top fiction, here are my top biography, here are my top spiritual growth.
Yeah.
And she finally picked one, but I was like, yes, I love it when somebody asks me for a book recommendation.
This is going to be one of my Facebook posts when I post, if you need a book recommendation, ask Catherine Allison. I love her. You're good at giving me book recommendations.
Good times.
But anyways.
Man, girl, this was a good episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was good for me to...
It was a hard episode to talk about.
Especially because why it was good for me is you're the one who did the questions this time. So I'm like, oh, okay, we're going there. Let's go there. Let's work through my anger and my frustration.
I know. I was just like, well, it was Saturday, and I was like, oh, let me see what I can come up with.
And then, I almost feel like you might get a laugh at this. I almost feel like I just walked out of a counseling session for myself.
Yeah.
Because you were asking me some really good questions for me to think about and through.
It's tough questions, but anyways.
But let's just let's share real quick. David Pallison's book, Good and Angry, Redeeming Anger, Irritation, Complaining, and Bitterness. That's a solid book.
Yep. And
highly recommend it.
I have been doing this Edward T. Welch. It's small devotional. It's 50-day devotional, I think. And it's short, which is why I do it with this. But it's great. Great.
Are there
little
questions?
Points.
Does he give reflection questions?
There are some. Yes.
Okay.
On some, there's one question, and then maybe there might be a couple that end with maybe a scripture verse, but it's still good.
Can I say this one real quick, and then we'll end our episode. So I finished this not too long ago, Seeing Beautiful Again, and y'all, I love this.
That's so good. It's great.
This devotional, she was pretty much journaling and writing during her really difficult season of trying to save her marriage with,
and then she had breast cancer.
So this is what God was teaching her and what she was working through it all, and how she was able to see beautiful again through all the hard.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a great devotional. I love it.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Anyway, such a great episode.
Yes.
Thanks for talking about the hard topic of anger with me, and for letting me know that you're the mom who jumps up. What? Come on now.
Oh yeah, ask my husband.
We would have been
when we come over
together.
and record. Ask him how I am in soccer. He'd probably shake his head and go,
"That's awesome."
Anyways.
Well, ladies, we're so glad you were here with us. Thank you for listening to our episode on anger.
Yes.
Next
Thank y'all
week
for sticking
we will.
With us.
Yeah. An hour and 19 minutes. Girl.
Okay. Ding.
Next week we're going to be talking about forgiveness and what that looks like. So
another tough topic.
Be sure to bring the book that you're currently reading, because I packed mine away.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Anyway. Looking forward to it, and we'll see you all next week. We hope you have a good evening.
Bye,
I'm Cathy.
ladies. I'm Ellen.